Bullies try to hit the new kid. Big mistake facing the school's fearsome fighter. Jake walked into Crestview High like a deer caught in headlights. The clamour of laughter, gossip and shouts swirled around him. A cacophony that felt like a cage he couldn't escape. A sea of unfamiliar faces loomed large, each one layer upon layer of judgment and expectation. He tightened his grip on his backpack, willing himself to melt into the walls. Somehow, he had been the magnet for trouble on this very first day. It was no secret that Crestview was ruled by its social titans, headlined by Tommy, the school's notorious bully. Beneath the weight of the afternoon sun, Tommy's crew loomed like storm clouds, joking and jostling amongst themselves. Their laughter held an edge, sharp enough to draw blood. As Jake stood frozen near the fountain, the bully's eyes fell on him, and the mood shifted. There was a hungry sparkle in Tommy's gaze, the kind that spelled trouble. "Oh look, the newbie!" Tommy's voice boomed, drawing a few reluctant onlookers. Jake's heart raced. The heat of embarrassment flushed through him. He forced himself to breathe, but it felt as though the air had thickened. With a crew of laughs ringing in the air, they surrounded him, blocking any chance of retreat. Jake could feel the tension crackle between them, the kind that made his skin crawl. He had tangled with trouble before, but never like this. The shadows of his past fought to surface, flickering like ghostly images, begging for attention. Just as the familiar dread began to coil in his stomach, a voice whispered in his mind, remnants of his late father's teachings echoing through the chaos. "You've got what it takes, son. Control the storm within you." Jake's chest tightened, the weight of expectation hanging like a blade over his heart. Did he want to unleash what lay dormant inside him? A fighter by blood, but he hated the monster that rose when provoked. "Ready, new kid?" Tommy sneered, brandishing his fist with theatrical flair. Laughter erupted around them, the kind that made Jake feel small. But in that moment of impending dread, something else awakened in him. Adrenaline surged. The familiar tingle of instinct kicked in, every fibre of him poised for a fight. As the first punch shot towards him, time slowed. Jake's reflexes took the reins. He ducked, weaving under Tommy's attack and sidestepping, like a dancer guided by something greater. Gasps echoed like thunder, silence crashing in after the sudden eruption. When he straightened, he didn't just see bullies. He saw boys caught in a web of their own making. And one of them caught his eye in a way that sent a chill down his spine. Wait, could it be? The kid was familiar. A shadow of a forgotten friend from childhood. Instantly, the rush faded. Old memories unfurled like an old newspaper. Laughter, loyalty, a bond long severed by time and misplaced choices. The atmosphere shifted, laughter draining into uncertainty. Jake stood there, heart pounding against his ribs as he, for the first time, faced the monster within. Should he fight back or pull back? The decision weighed heavily, and just when he thought he had a handle on it all, the world spun anew around them, leaving him at the crux of chaos and clarity. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just do a quick check on that red button down below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any of the exclusive content coming your way. And since you're here, smash that like button. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person in this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Jake stood there, his heart racing, caught between the urge to fight and the weight of familiarity. Tommy's grin widened, a predator sensing fear. But among the crowd, Jake's gaze lingered on that familiar face. The boy from his past. Jake? The boy mouthed, shock rippling through his voice. It was Tyler, his best friend from childhood. Forgotten laughter echoed in Jake's mind, memories bubbling to the surface. But the moment felt like a thunderclap. Who would have thought? After all these years, Tommy raised his fist again, oblivious to the past unveiling before him. You scared, new kid. But the laughter was different now. Less intimidating, more uncertain. The crowd hesitated. Tension thickened like the muggy air of summer. Just as Jake opened his mouth to respond, everything shifted. A sudden scream pierced the air. It was sharp and raw, cutting through the crowd's amusement like a knife. Heads turned, the moment frozen in time. A shadow flashed at the edge of the schoolyard. Jake's stomach twisted, his instincts flaring. Something was wrong. Really wrong. And then it happened. A figure burst from the school doors, chest heaving, eyes wild. It was Ms. Lawson, the English teacher. Her hands were shaking, a desperate look on her face. Get inside! Lock the doors! Confusion gripped Jake. What did she mean? But the urgency in her voice was undeniable. Panic bloomed in the crowd as whispers spiraled around him. Is it a drill? What's happening? And then the unmistakable sound of sirens sliced into the air, loud and relentless, buzzing like angry wasps. People began to scatter. Some rushed towards the school entrance, while others stood frozen, fear etched on their faces. Jake! Tyler shouted, snapping him back to reality. We gotta go! He grabbed Jake's arm, pulling him toward the entrance. But Jake hesitated, still lost in the rush of adrenaline and the chaos around him. Memories swirled in his mind. Wait, Jake said, looking at Tyler, then at Tommy, who was now stepping back, confusion replacing his bravado. What's going on? Before anyone could answer, a loud crash came from the direction of the gym. The riotous clamour of the crowd fell silent as they turned towards the sound. A heavy silence settled, a kind of uncanny calm before a storm. The atmosphere was charged with a sharp energy. Is someone hurt? A random voice trembled, breaking through the stillness. More concerned murmurs rippled through the students. Jake's heart raced. The world had flipped. The school gods, the bullies, none of this mattered now. Fear had painted everyone the same colour. Stay close, Ms. Lawson yelled, gathering students into a huddle near the entrance. But just as Jake felt a spark of collective unity, another crash echoed, followed by a heavy thud. Everyone jumped. Then, from the shadows, a second figure emerged. A boy clad in a dark hoodie, face hidden but posture aggressive. No one leaves, he shouted, voice booming, commanding. Jake's breath hitched. This was no ordinary confrontation, not just a schoolyard brawl. The reality blanketed him with dread. Without knowing why, he took a step closer to Tyler, the memories of brotherhood now a source of strength. And as the boy turned to face them, Jake's heart sank deeper, stunned by recognition. No, it couldn't be. This boy, this threat, it was someone from his past. Someone he thought had vanished forever. A betrayal that ran deeper than mere friendship. A history tinged with shadows he thought he had escaped. The air was thick with tension. Fear twisting everyone's bodies in a vice grip. And in that moment, Jake realized the stakes had risen far above just the school fight. Everything was about to change. "What do you want?" Jake breathed, voice barely a whisper as he locked eyes with the stranger, the truth clawing its way to the surface of his mind. The crowd held their breath, thousands of questions spinning in the air, but the boy only grinned, dark and knowing. Just a little family reunion. And just like that, everything Jake thought he knew shattered, leaving him standing on the edge of a cliff, heart pounding, as he faced the darkest corners of his own past. Jake's breath quickened. He stood on the edge of panic, heart pounding like a drum. Just a little family reunion. The words hung in the air, heavy and toxic. Everyone froze, eyes darting between the dark figure and each other. Uncertainty, breeding fear. "Who are you?" Jake spat, his voice trembling. He thought he had left his old life behind, buried deep in a past he was desperate to forget. And yet, here stood a reminder, a ghost that clawed its way back into reality. The hooded boy took a step forward, the shadows cooling around him like ink. "You really don't remember me, do you?" His voice slithered through the crowd, unsettling and familiar. The tension crackled like electricity, igniting old sparks. The memories surged like a wave. "No, it can't be," Jake whispered, eyes widening as he wrestled with the realization. The boy pulled down his hood, revealing a face Jake thought he'd never see again. It was Sam, his long-lost brother. Gasps broke the silence. "What?" Tyler's voice trembled, disbelief flooding his eyes. The crowd shifted, whispers spiraling like an angry wind. The revelation ripped through Jake like a bolt of lightning. "Sam? But you vanished." Jake's mind raced. The rumors, the secrets, they all made twisted sense now. The missed birthdays, the silent family dinners, the gaping hole left in his life. Jake's world tilted dangerously. Everything he thought he knew was unraveling. "Yeah, well, I had reasons to disappear," Sam sneered, his eyes dark and unreadable, as though years lived outside the family had twisted him in ways Jake couldn't fully comprehend. "And now I'm back, ready to finish what we started." "What do you mean?" Jake's voice was thick, the lump in his throat nearly choking him. He felt the weight of 100 words left unsaid. The anger, the betrayal, the longing. "You're a threat now. You're—" "Pretty much," Sam interrupted, shrugging off Jake's words like an old coat. "But the truth is far darker than any of this. You have no idea what's been happening while you've been playing house with the family." "What are you talking about?" Jake's heart raced as he stepped closer. The murmurs of the crowd faded into a deafening silence. He could feel Tyler's grip tighten on his arm, a silent anchor amidst the chaos. "Trust me, you don't want to know." Sam's grin morphed into something sinister. "But you will, soon." His words dripped with a promise, a menace that echoed with every heartbeat in Jake's ears. Then, from somewhere behind the gym, another crash erupted, louder this time. The ground shook slightly. Everyone jumped, like wildfire. Fear bloomed like a dark flower, stretching its roots around their hearts. "Sam, you have to stop," Jake blurted, desperation rising like bile in his throat. "This isn't you." "Not anymore," Sam shot back, eyes gleaming with a madness that felt too familiar. "And you're about to find out just how much I've changed." Before Jake could respond, the gym doors burst open with a resounding bang. A stream of students rushed out, their faces masks of horror. "They're coming!" One girl screamed, breathless and wide-eyed with fear. "What's happening?" Jake's breath caught in his chest. All thoughts of family ties extinguished, swallowed by a tide of confusion and panic. "They're not here for a reunion," Sam said, a dark smile blooming on his face, satisfying Jake with a sense of dread. "They're here for you, all of you." The tension snapped like a bowstring. Whoever was coming for them, the truth lay just out of reach, slipping through his fingers like sand. And with that, everything Jake thought he understood shattered. Nothing made sense anymore. No alliances, no certainties. Just a looming storm on the horizon, and a brother turned villain. "Run!" Tyler yelled, pulling Jake with him. But questions swung in Jake's mind like pendulums, each tick marking the inevitability of all that was to come. What had Sam unleashed, and at what cost? The darkness was closing in, and Jake found himself caught in a nightmare from which he couldn't wake. Jake stumbled back, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. "They're here for you. All off." The words hung in the air, heavy like a wet blanket, pulling him deeper into a pit of dread. Tyler's grip tightened on Jake's arm. What does he mean? Fear coated his voice as worry flashed in his eyes. Before Jake could reply, a loud crash echoed from the gym, shaking the ground beneath him. The crowd jumped again, breaths catching as panic rippled through them. A girl screamed, her voice raw and panicked. "We need to get out of here!" But Sam just laughed, a low, cruel sound. "You think you can run?" His shadows of their shared past tightening their grip on his heart. "No, Jake!" Tyler pulled him back, fear racing through him. They glanced over at Ms. Lawson, still trying to corral students into safety. The tension warped the air, thick and suffocating. Another crash from the gym shattered their focus. A haze of dust and smoke made its way through the entrance, wrapping around everyone like a ghost. Fear gripped the crowd tighter, faces pale, eyes wide. "Get inside, Ms. Lawson." Lawson shouted again, her voice almost lost in the chaos. "Close the doors, now!" Jake felt a rush of anger. "No! We can't just run inside like scared rabbits. We need to figure out what's going on." His voice edged on desperation. But then, the air thickened with uncertainty. Sam stepped forward, unfazed. "Like I said, reunion time. You wanted the truth, Jake? It's all connected. You're all part of it." "What are you talking about?" Jake's voice cracked, the panic starting to rise within him. Sam smiled, a twisted grin that sent chills down Jake's spine. "Our real family, our blood isn't what you think. I'm not alone." At that moment, from the shadows at the edge of the schoolyard, a second figure stepped out, moving with a confidence that felt dangerous. The faint light caught a glimmer of metal, a knife, and the crowd gasped collectively. It unfolded like a surreal horror movie, an image locked in chaos. "Is that—" Tyler whispered, eyes wide with disbelief. Jake's heart stopped. No way. The new figure lifted a hood, revealing a familiar face. His older sister, Liz. "Surprise, little brother!" She smirked, her eyes glinting with provocation. "No! This can't be happening!" Jake's voice was a whisper, caught in disbelief. The crowd stilled, breaths caught like frozen leaves in winter. Murmurs broke out again, echoing confusion and disbelief. "Liz, but how? Why?" Jake felt his world shatter into 1,000 pieces. Everything he thought he knew was intertwined in a web of betrayal and lies. Liz stepped forward, rolling her shoulders back. You think your little life here means anything? We've been watching, waiting. The time has come, Jake. You can join us, or you can stay here and be swept away. No, Jake shouted, heart racing as cold dread twisted in his gut. You can't be serious. You want to hurt everyone. I want to. Show you the truth, Liz snapped, voice harsh, cutting like glass. You've been stuck in a fairy tale while real danger looms. We need to act. And Sam's right. You're a part of it. You always have been. Jake's mind reeled. This was not the family he'd known. This was chaos. Was this even real? Tears pricked the corners of his eyes as he looked to Tyler, who was just as lost, fear spreading across his features. And what if I refuse? Jake's voice trembled as he faced the betrayal head-on. Liz stepped closer, and the crowd drifted back, tension hanging thick in the air. Then you'll regret standing against us. Family is everything, Jake. Remember that. The atmosphere crackled, charged with an energy that felt like it could ignite the night. Jake stood frozen, caught in a spiral of horror and realization. The love of family twisted into a dark promise, and around him everything he believed shattered. And as Sam's cruel grin returned, Jake felt the ground shift beneath him. Everything was changing. Nothing was safe anymore. The truth was a dangerous lure, and he was trapped in a game with no clear rules. The question hung like a dark cloud. Which side would he choose? Jake stood frozen, his heart racing at the revelation. Sam and Liz had come back, and his life was spinning into chaos. They stood there, siblings turned enemies, and fear clawed at him. The crowd around them felt like a swirling hurricane, all eyes wide with disbelief. But something shifted. A distant rumble echoed from beyond. The school's walls, deep and unsettling. Jake squinted, straining to hear over the hushed whispers and gasps. "What is that?" he muttered, heart pounding not just from the confrontation, but now from something else, a sensation that something terrible was about to unfold. Sam shrugged dismissively. "Doesn't matter. Your precious fairy tale is ending, Jake. Time to wake up." His eyes gleamed with excitement. Or was it malice? The crowd's murmurs grew louder. Students beginning to grasp the danger looming over them. "Come on," Tyler urged, tugging at Jake's arm. "We need to get out of here." But Jake's feet felt glued to the ground. He couldn't look away from Sam and Liz, who wore their betrayal like armor. The weight of their past pressed down on him, suffocating. That rumble grew louder, shattering the tension. Suddenly, chaos erupted. A loud bang! The ground shook violently, knocking a few students off their feet. Dark clouds rolled in, swirling ominously overhead. "What's happening?" someone shrieked as darkness swallowed the sun. "Run, inside!" Miss Lawson shouted, panic rising in her voice. But it was too late. Without warning, a massive explosion rocked the gym, sending debris flying in every direction. Jake felt the heat on his skin as a fireball erupted, illuminating the sky. The bright flash caught everyone off guard, and students screamed, scrambling for safety like ants fleeing a collapsed nest. "Get down!" Jake shouted, pushing Tyler away from the blast, heart racing as students darted around in disarray. Smoke filled the air, thick and suffocating, wrapping around them like a shroud. As Jake stumbled, he caught a glimpse of Sam's face through the chaos, a mask of glee. He looked like a puppet master, reveling in the mayhem he had unleashed. Now the real fun begins. He yelled over the madness. "No!" Jake roared, fury igniting within him. His voice cut through the panic. "This isn't just a game!" But another figure suddenly burst from the smoke, rushing towards the crowd and pushing past the chaos. It was a girl, her long hair flowing wildly behind her. Jake's breath caught in his throat. It was Mia, their childhood friend who had moved away years ago. Why was she here? "Mia," he gasped as she darted toward him, eyes wide with panic. "You need to get out!" "Mia!" Tyler shouted, reaching for her. But in the blink of an eye, everything shifted. As she reached Jake, a blinding light erupted from her pocket, and the air hummed with energy. A strange, familiar warmth enveloped them. What is happening?" Jake stammered, backing away. Her eyes were wild, and for a fleeting moment, Jake saw a flicker of something deeper, like she was holding back a storm inside her. "I didn't want you to know." Mia's voice was trembling. Before he could respond, a piercing scream erupted from the crowd. Jake turned to see what had caught everyone's attention. The ground cracked beneath them, splintering like glass. Something was emerging from below, dark tendrils stretching out, whispering secrets of the deep. And just as a shadowy figure rose, Jake felt a jolt of recognition in his gut. It was a being, cloaked in darkness, its eyes gleaming with ancient knowledge. "You've woken me, little brother." The voice rolled through the chaos, rich and deep, threading through the chaos. Jake's heart sank. The figure wasn't just any shadow. It was a part of him, tethered to the darkest secrets of his family. Everything began to unravel. Sam's laughter turned into gasps, surprise flickering across his face. As recognition hit. "Wait, this can't be real." The words slipped from Jake's lips, a whisper of desperation. He felt the weight of an entire legacy crashing down. Mia stepped closer, face pale. "You have to remember, Jake, it all connects. Our family isn't just blood." As the shadow took form, secrets twisted in the air like smoke. His world was shattering. And just as the truth began to unravel, Jake felt the world tilt beneath him, darkness closing in, leaving him gasping in desperation. Nothing made sense anymore. The fight, the fear, the fire. It was all part of something bigger, darker. And as everything spiraled around him, Jake's heart raced with an undeniable truth. The real battle was just beginning. Jake stood frozen, the world around him spinning with the revelation that had just struck his heart. Sam and Liz, now standing as adversaries, drew nearer. Tension thickening, the smoke-filled air between them. The shadowy figure that had emerged from the ground lingered ominously, eyes glinting with ancient power. Its presence feeling like a surge of dark energy. "Enough!" Jake shouted, rage boiling beneath his skin. But the moment felt surreal, like the universe was watching with bated breath. The ground trembled again, and something primal surged within him, wanting to fight, to protect. But then came the rumbling again, insistent and alive, vibrating through the crowd like a living thing. The smoke thickened, swirling into a dark vortex that seemed to grow legs, stretching out in every direction. People were shouting, faces twisted in confusion. Then, Spotlight broke through the haze. A blinding white beam illuminated the chaotic scene, cutting through the darkness like a knife. And suddenly, it all changed. With a crack that echoed like thunder, the ground split wide open. A fissure burst forth, and out of it came a figure, tall and striking, a silhouette that seemed to pulse with light, radiating strength. The energy racked around it, crackling like static. Eyes widened. Whispers turned into frantic screams. The crowd stepped back in fear. Jake, the figure called, voice a melody of familiarity and command, cutting through the chaos. I've come for you. The intensity wrapped around him, snaking into his chest. A familiar scent lingered, sharp and sweet, like summer rain. Jake squinted, disbelief clawing at him. Who are you? The figure stepped forward, revealing features that felt achingly close, yet blissfully far away. It was a face he recognized too well. Sophie. He breathed, heart catching in his throat. His childhood best friend, lost in memories, now stood before him, but something felt off. She was radiant, almost too bright, against the darkness surrounding them. The world was still. "What are you doing here?" he whispered, confusion washing over him. But as those words left his mouth, the overwhelming surge of emotion shifted into clarity. Sophie was the link he hadn't known he was missing. But then the threat revealed itself. "She's not here to help you, Jake." Sam's voice sliced through the moment. "She's part of it, just like us." "What?" Jake shot back, the ground beneath him trembling with the weight of truth and lies. "You can't be serious." Sophie's eyes flickered in the light, a depth of sorrow swimming within them. "I had to find you, Jake. It was never safe. They've been watching the family, and they found me first." Suddenly the air thickened, an electric buzz charged between them. Sam's eyes darkened, his grin replaced with uncertainty. "You think she's your ally? She's a distraction. You have no idea what she's actually doing." "Here! Stop!" Jake shouted, panic rising within him. He felt trapped, caught between brother and friend, his pulse echoing the rhythm of fear. "What do you all want from me?" A low, guttural laugh erupted from the shadowy figure. "Family ties are complicated, Jake. Sophie isn't just a friend." The truth struck like a hammer. "No, you're lying," he screamed, the words caught in his throat. "Tell me you're lying." But Sophie's expression turned solemn, an understanding in her eyes that sent ice slithering down his spine. "I'm sorry, Jake. I wanted to help, but I was one of them, a keeper of secrets." The world around him twisted yet again. The reality crumbled like dust beneath his feet. His heart dropped. "What secrets?" A flicker of recognition crossed Sam's face. "You see, you've always been the centerpiece. All this chaos is built around you. The family legacy, the darkness, it was all meant for you to carry." "No!" Jake refused to believe it, shaking his head. "You're wrong!" But deep down, he felt the tendrils of fate wrapping tighter around him. The fissure widened again, shadows swirling as chaos enveloped them. Everything pulsed with intensity. The whispers of thousands of secrets echoed louder, drowning out everything else. "The choice is coming, Jake. Are you ready to accept your true lineage?" The air crackled with something ancient and powerful, buzzing against his skin. Confusion turned to determination. The stakes were too high. But then came a shocking realization, a flicker of light amid the dark. Sophie's hand raised, revealing something shiny, a locket. That glinted under the chaos. "If you trust me, Jake, open this." He hesitated, time stretching thin. With the ground trembling, shadows closing in, what choice would he make? The storm was upon him, but now a choice lay ahead. Would he embrace the truth, or walk away from the darkness? As the crowd gasped in unison, Jake felt his breath hitch, his world tipping on the edge of a knife. Answers loomed. Reality shifted. And in one heart-stopping moment, the chaos tightened, leaving nothing assured. The truth hung in the air, heavy with fate, and Jake stood on the precipice, questioning everything he thought he knew. Jake stood frozen, the world around him spinning with the revelation that had just struck his heart. Sam and Liz, now standing as adversaries, drew nearer, tension thickening the smoke-filled air between them. The shadowy figure that had emerged from the ground lingered ominously, eyes glinting with ancient power, its presence feeling like a surge of dark energy. "Enough!" Jake shouted, rage boiling beneath his skin. But the moment felt surreal, like the universe was watching with bated breath. The ground trembled again, and something primal surged within him, wanting to fight, to protect. But then came the rumbling again, insistent and alive, vibrating through the crowd like a living thing. The smoke thickened, swirling into a dark vortex that seemed to grow legs, stretching out in every direction. People were shouting, faces twisted in confusion. Then spotlights broke through the haze. A blinding white beam illuminated the chaotic scene, cutting through the darkness like a knife. And suddenly, it all changed. With a crack that echoed like thunder, the ground split wide open. A fissure burst forth, and out of it came a figure, tall and striking. A silhouette that seemed to pulse with light, radiating strength. The energy wrapped around it, crackling like static. Eyes widened. Whispers turned into frantic screams. The crowd stepped back in fear. "Jake," the figure called, voice a melody of familiarity and command, cutting through the chaos. "I've come for you." The intensity wrapped around him, snaking into his chest. A familiar scent lingered, sharp and sweet, like summer rain. Jake squinted, disbelief clawing at him. Who are you?" The figure stepped forward, revealing features that felt achingly close, yet blissfully far away. It was a face he recognized too well. Sophie. He breathed, heart catching in his throat. His childhood best friend, lost in memories, now stood before him, but something felt off. She was radiant, almost too bright against the darkness surrounding them. The world was still. "What are you doing here?" he whispered, confusion washing over him. But as those words left his mouth, the overwhelming surge of emotions shifted into clarity. Sophie was the link he hadn't known he was missing. But then the threat revealed itself. "She's not here to help you, Jake." Sam's voice sliced through the moment. "She's part of it, just like us." "What?" Jake shot back, the ground beneath him trembling with the weight of truth and lies. "You can't be serious." Sophie's eyes flickered in the light, a depth of sorrow swimming within. "Them. I had to find you, Jake. It was never safe. They've been watching the family, and they found me first." Suddenly, the air thickened, an electric buzz charged between them. Sam's eyes darkened, his grin replaced with uncertainty. "You think she's your ally? She's a distraction. You have no idea what she's actually doing here." "Stop!" Jake shouted, panic rising within him. He felt trapped, caught between brother and friend, his pulse echoing the rhythm of fear. "What do you all want from me?" A low, guttural laugh erupted from the shadowy figure. "Family ties. are complicated, Jake. Sophie isn't just a friend. The truth struck like a hammer. "No! You're lying!" he screamed, the words caught in his throat. "Tell me you're lying!" But Sophie's expression turned solemn, an understanding in her eyes that sent ice slithering down his spine. "I'm sorry, Jake. I wanted to help, but I was one of them, a keeper of secrets." The world around him twisted yet again. The reality crumbled like dust beneath his feet. His heart dropped. What secrets? Before he could process anything further, an explosion rocked the ground nearby. The force sent Jake sprawling, and the light from the fissure grew blinding. He shielded his face just as flames erupted from the crack, licking the air with an insatiable hunger. Screams pierced the chaos, and when he looked up, the shadow engulfed Sophie, wrapping around her like a cloak. "No!" Jake screamed, scrambling to his feet. But Sophie's face twisted in pain as the darkness pulled her in. "Jake, And then the flames surged, swallowing her entire form, leaving nothing behind but a smouldering ember. The crowd erupted in panic, struggling to escape the chaos. Sam's face shifted from glee to horror, his eyes wide. "What have you done?" he gasped, realization creeping in just as the shadow broke loose, thrumming with power. "What do you mean, what have I done?" Jake's voice trembled, confusion dancing with rage. "She was on our side." "No, she was your enemy, you fool," Sam shouted, his facade cracking. "The truth is that she was using you all along. She wanted you for herself." The winds howled around them, swirling debris carried like leaves in a storm. Jake's heart sank as he came to a devastating understanding. No, that can't be true. She was my friend. But doubt gnawed at him. Did he really know Sophie? Or was she just another player in this twisted game? As the shadows closed closer, fueled by the flames, Jake felt the ground shift beneath him. He was standing at the edge of everything he thought he understood, a gaping chasm of uncertainty. The shadows darted with intent, revealing twisted faces that emerged from the depths. They were familiar and terrifying, burdens of betrayal wrapped in darkness. "Prepare yourself, little brother," a voice called, cold as ice. "You've lost your guide. Now it's time for the reckoning." The chaos twisted around him, roaring to life. The night was hungry, ready to swallow him whole. And through it all, Jake's mind raced. Was he truly alone? With Sophie gone, the very fabric of his reality shifted, spinning into a nightmare that threatened to consume him. And as the shadows gathered closer, he realized that everything, every choice, every bond, was now at the mercy of the storm, ready to tear apart what remained of his heart. All he could do was stand firm, shaking with doubt. The truth hung heavy in the air, and Jake was left confronting the dark reality. He was more connected to the shadows than he ever realized. Jake stood frozen, the world around him spinning with the revelation that had just struck his heart. The ground trembled again, shadows closing in on him like a swarm of dark, hungry insects. Fear gripped him tight. He could feel his heartbeat in his throat, a frantic rhythm, like a warning bell. "Jake," Tyler's voice broke through the fog, desperation spilling from him. "We need to get out of here. This isn't safe." But Jake couldn't move. His mind raced, tangled in thoughts of betrayal and confusion. The shadows loomed larger. With every breath, darkness pressed in harder, and Jake felt the weight of his choices hanging over him. He could feel Tyler's anxiety as he pulled at Jake's arm, urging him to come. "Jake, please!" Tyler's eyes were wide, pleading. Panic flickered in the crowd. Students were scrambling, shouting, a chorus of hysteria echoing like an impending storm. Then everything shifted. From the depths of the shadow, a piercing scream sliced through the air. It was unlike any scream Jake had ever heard, raw and filled with agony. The figure that had risen from the ground convulsed as flames licked at it, sending sparks flying into the swirling darkness. The shadow flexed and recoiled like a living organism, almost hurt, embodying a tempest of chaos. "Get back!" Sam yelled, his bravado slipping. But it was too late. The shadow surged forward, its form twisting and writhing, intent and unyielding. In an explosion of light, the being lunged toward Jake. For a moment, time stood still, as a blinding light enveloped him. He couldn't move, couldn't think. All he felt was a surge of warmth, dangerous and thrilling, unlike anything he had ever known. And then, just as suddenly, it was gone. Jake stumbled backward, the air thick with confusion. But when he opened his eyes, everything had changed. The shadows had pulled back, revealing a swirl of glowing figures swirling around him, shrouded in glimmers of light. Were they spirits? Their whispers filled the air, overlapping in a haunting melody that gripped Jake's heart. "Jake," a voice echoed, familiar and tender. He turned, eyes wide as warmth flooded through him. It was Sophie, alive and vibrant, standing before him, as if emerging from a dream. "I'm so sorry. I didn't want this." "What?" Jake gasped, pulse racing. "You were—" "Yes, I was trapped." "A vessel of darkness," she replied, breathless, eyes shimmering with something that felt profound. "But I didn't know. I thought by coming here, I could help you." Jake's heart raced, spinning in a whirlwind of questions. "But you, how are you alive? I saw you vanish." "I was never gone. Not really." She stepped closer, her presence radiating light that pushed the shadows back. The crowd fell silent, all eyes on them. "I was caught between worlds, Jake. I have powers I didn't comprehend. Powers connected to what's happening now." "What do you mean?" Jake trembled, his mind racing in circles, searching for clarity. Before she could answer, a deafening roar erupted from the fissure where the shadow once was. The fiery energy coiled in on itself, growing larger and more chaotic. "You shouldn't have come back," a voice thundered, winding through the chaos, sharp and sinister. It was the entity, forced and furious. Jake felt bile rise in his throat as the full realization settled in. Sophie's presence, the visions, the truths hidden in darkness. Everything was tangled in an ancient power he didn't understand. "What did you do?" he shouted over the roar. "I awakened it. I thought I could control it." Sophie's voice cracked with despair, but determination sparked in her eyes. "But now it's unleashed, Jake. We can either fight it together or let it consume everything." The energy pulsed erratically, igniting the air. Fear gripped Jake's heart again, but now it felt different. This was a challenge, deeper than anything he had faced. All or nothing lay before him. Relationships, family ties, trust. Every connection tested, every narrative flipped upside down. And as the darkness swirled anew, a biting truth burned in Jake's chest. Together. The word echoed in his mind, heavier than he ever realized. Then, from the depths of the shadows, a final choice fell on his shoulders. Embrace the hidden paths ahead, or let the darkness win, already crushing down on him, a weight he had never known. And in that moment, the tempest roared, demanding his answer. Jake stood frozen, the world around him spinning with the revelation that had just struck his heart. The ground trembled again, shadows closing in on him like a swarm of dark, hungry insects. Fear gripped him tight. He could feel his heartbeat in his throat, a frantic rhythm, like a warning bell. Jake! Tyler's voice broke through the fog, desperation spilling from him. We need to get out of here! This isn't safe! But Jake couldn't move. His mind raced, tangled in thoughts of betrayal and confusion. The shadows loomed larger. With every breath, darkness pressed in harder, and Jake felt the weight of his choices hanging over him. He could feel Tyler's anxiety as he pulled at Jake's arm, urging him to come. Jake, please! Tyler's eyes were wide, pleading. Panic flickered in the crowd. Students were scrambling, shouting, a chorus of hysteria echoing like an impending storm. Then everything shifted. From the depths of the shadow, a piercing scream sliced through the air. It was unlike any scream Jake had ever heard, raw and filled with agony. The figure that had risen from the ground convulsed as flames licked at it, sending sparks flying into the swirling darkness. The shadow flexed and recoiled like a living organism, almost hurt, embodying a tempest of chaos. Get back! Sam yelled, his bravado slipping. But it was too late. The shadow surged forward, its form twisting and writhing, intent and unyielding. In an explosion of light, the being lunged toward Jake. For a moment, time stood still as a blinding light enveloped him. He couldn't move, couldn't think. All he felt was a surge of warmth, dangerous and thrilling, unlike anything he had ever known. And then, just as suddenly, it was gone. Jake stumbled backward, dazed from the strange energy. When he opened his eyes, the shadows had pulled back, revealing a swirl of glowing figures. Shrouded in glimmers of light. Were they spirits? Their whispers filled the air, overlapping in a haunting melody that gripped Jake's heart. Jake, a voice echoed, familiar yet distant, like a long-lost memory. He turned, eyes wide, as warmth flooded through him. Sophie stood before him, alive and vibrant, sparkling with a light that pushed the shadows back. I'm so sorry. I didn't want this. What? Jake gasped, pulse racing. You were... Yes, I was trapped, but now I can help you. Sophie's voice was filled with urgency, but in her eyes, Jake saw something else, an underlying fear. But before he could ask, the shadow loomed again, and Sophie's face went pale. Jake, we have to act quickly. It's not just us here. There's... A deafening roar erupted, layering on top of everything, shaking the very ground. The fissure grew wide, dark energy pouring out like a flood. Then from the depths, a new figure emerged, colossal and shrouded. It was a creature of pure malevolence, eyes glowing red as it locked onto Jake with unsettling intent. What's happening? Tyler stammered, grabbing Jake's shoulder, his voice trembling with dread. Stay back, Jake sputtered, fear squeezing his chest. But the creature just stared, its power palpable and overwhelming. This belongs to you, it bellowed, its voice resonating with a challenge. Belongs to me? Jake echoed, mind racing. What do you mean? In an instant, reality shifted. The shadowy figure's form flickered, revealing a truth that hit like a freight train. You are the key, Jake. You. And your siblings. You all are connected to this power. You've been chosen. No! Jake shouted, shaking his head furiously. I don't want this. Sophie stepped forward, her eyes brimming with tears. It's true, Jake. We have to accept our legacy. Confusion swirled in his mind until a sensational flash of realization struck him. Sam, Liz, Sophie, all of them were part of this dark destiny. Memories surged inside of him, linking them in ways he couldn't explain. And right there, in that moment of devastating clarity, everything twisted again. The figure lunged at Sophie, reaching out with dark tendrils, and before anyone could react, it made contact. A burst of light erupted, enveloping them in blinding radiance. When the light faded, the shock left them breathless, reality standing sliced open like a fresh wound. Sophie was gasping, but the glow faded. Something felt wrong. They all took a step back, unsure. Then, as if time rewound, with a final burst, the shadow shrank back, revealing the huddled form of Liz. But she wasn't just herself. No, she had transformed, wearing a crown of shadows. An aura of dark power radiated from her, as if she had merged with the sinister force they all feared. Surprise, little brother! Liz grinned wickedly. I didn't just return for you. I came to lead you into the darkness. Jake felt the ground crumble beneath him. His heart raced, pounding out of control. No! This can't be happening! Everything he knew spiraled out of reach. Liz was no longer the sister he loved. She was a reflection of the darkness they had tried to escape. Relationships shattered, trust obliterated, a complete turn of events. Join us, Jake! She dangled the words like bait, her voice a mix of honey and venom. The energy surged, drawing all eyes to her. And Jake stood there, heart pounding, feeling the shadows close around him once more, unsure of how to escape this new, harrowing reality. A web wrapped around a truth too dark to face. With a booming laugh, Liz stepped forward, shadows swirling around her, like a ravenous storm. You've all been so naive, thinking you could fight this. Join us, Jake, or suffer the consequences. Her voice echoed, filling the air with a weight that crushed the resolve of those around her. Never, Jake shouted, heart racing. Tyler stood beside him, trembling but resolute. We won't fight with you. Doesn't matter, Liz sneered, eyes gleaming. You're already a part of this, fuller than ever. The entity behind her surged, dark tendrils stretching outward, threatening to swallow everything in sight. Jake felt the heat pressing in, the swirling chaos clawing at his mind. He squeezed his fists, desperately searching for the courage he always believed he had. The whispers intensified, growing loud, a cacophony all around. The spirits that surrounded him felt close, almost within reach. Memories of laughter and warmth danced in his mind. They were there with him. Sophie, Tyler, even the past he'd fought so hard to distance himself from. I won't let this happen. In that moment of fierce determination, Jake stepped forward, a crackling energy igniting around him. You have no power over us, pulsed from within him, charging. It drew power from the connections he shared with everyone. Friends, lost ties, family. I won't be afraid anymore. With a thunderous roar, the shadow charged. But as it did, Sophie stepped forward, a resolute figure, pulsing with light. Let's do this. She joined Jake, their powers weaving together. In that moment, Tyler grasped Jake's hand, shouting, "We got your back." The energy surged. The force of their collective spirits pushed against the shadow. The darkness swayed, swirling back, exposed under their united front. With a final flash, Jake and Sophie stepped into the light together, their hands raised, illuminating the darkness around them with a blinding explosion of power. Liz shrieked, stumbling as if struck. No, this can't be. The shadows pulled away, retreating, screaming against. The overwhelming light. Jake felt the warmth of support from friends and echoes of laughter, freeing them from fear, lifting the weight of dark secrets. And then, silence. The chaos faded. Darkness dispersed like mist. The sun broke through the clouds that loomed above Crestview High, warm light casting soft rays upon the trembling figures. Students were scattered and confused, but hope filled the air now, lighting their hearts. Jake gasped, eyes wide. He had faced the creature, the shadows, and the betrayal, yet remained. "It's done," he whispered, disbelief mingling with relief. Sophie stepped toward him, smiling through tears. "We'll rebuild, Jake, together." Tyler nodded, eyes sparkling with renewed confidence. "Yeah, we'll figure this out. Right?" "Right," Jake said, feeling the warmth of their bond. Shadows may linger, but they had emerged together, stronger than ever. But in that heartbeat of unity, a strange tension held, lingering on the edge of something new. The power within them had shifted. Echoes of darkness still hung like a shadow over their lives. Jake felt the weight of widespread uncertainty lingering in the air. "Jake, what's next? What do we do?" Tyler asked, uncertainty creeping back in. Before Jake could answer, a chill swept through him. The shadows were gone. Yes, but had they truly been defeated? The challenge would still be there, lying in wait for the moment they would be unprepared. What happens now, a mystery, was all Jake could glean. His heart surged again, a mix of hope and doubt flowing through him. And in that moment, as they stood together, resolute, but uncertain about what lay ahead, a single question pierced through the silence. Was this truly the end, or merely the beginning of something much darker? If you felt the pulse of this journey as strongly as Jake did, then you need to subscribe to the channel immediately, so you don't miss upcoming exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Did you feel the darkness closing in or the light breaking through? And don't wait another second to share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to know this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let's connect.